Welcome back to the Crypto Power Hour, the number one crypto show on Rumble, powered by Solum Global with your hosts, Lance Migliaccio and George Balloutine. This is your ultimate deep dive into everything crypto, blockchain, decentralized finance. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just stepping into the world of digital assets, we bring you expert insights, top interviews, exciting new projects, breaking news, and game-changing innovations shaping the future of digital assets. No hype, no fluff, just real talk, real strategies, and real opportunities in the world of crypto. Because on this show, in crypto, we trust. George Balloutine, my brother, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. You know, it's Friday. This is the last show of the day. It's number 3. Save the best for last, possibly. I don't know, but we're getting there. Just another day.
Yeah, of course.
What'd you say, though? What was it? The what? What kind of show was this?
The number one crypto show on Rumble. Oh, yeah.
All I do is win, no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough.
Can't get enough of that, baby. Winning.
Exactly. Winning. We love to win. Of course, you can catch the Crypto Power Hour here on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Of course, Fridays at 3 p.m. And we're fortunate, but based on views, we are now the number one crypto show on Rumble. So if you're joining us for the first time, you'll find out why. If you're here again, thank you for trusting in us. Of course, this is the place to, educate, unify, and teach everybody in the world about crypto. We like to see it fully adopted across the board. Only about 5% of the globe currently participates. We're joined by a great guest today. I'm super excited. We're going to be talking about tokenization, and I think at the end of the day, lots of other stuff, because this is a super interesting topic. Evgeny Mitkov, 26-year career of revolutionizing the FX capital markets and blockchain payments, has culminated with the founding of 7 Seas Capital Management, market-making fund, bridging the FX and DeFi blockchain markets. He's been at this for a long time, but for the last 11 years, Evgeny brought his capital markets knowledge and focus on user-friendly financial solutions, developed various blockchain projects, real-time clearinghouse, cross-border payments, of course, CBDC, crypto option market making, digital asset management, and DeFi lending. Evgeny was a partner in the crypto options market making firm, which also invested in various DeFi protocols. And Evgeny ran a DeFi lending protocol, which raised $268 million. So he's been in the game for a long time. He's developed cross-border blockchain payments for the Central Bank of Bahamas and its central bank issued digital currency, the sand dollar. So, and his resume goes on and on and on. He's just been in this business for a while. We got connected to him through Solum Global. Of course, this show is powered by Solum Global. They're our main sponsor. Let's get him. Let's not recently leave him backstage, George. Let's get him in here.
All right. Welcome to the Crypto Power Hour. Evgeny Mitkov.
Hello.
Let's hope I got that right. Evgeny Mitkov, right?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
25 years in experience in FX markets, 10 years in blockchain. You're a certified fund manager in BVI. You've spent the last 5 years running a BVI digital asset hedge fund, top 5 crypto options market maker. The list goes on and on and on. Everybody has an epiphany moment. Everybody has that thing that kind of draws them into the blockchain or crypto world. George and I have been at it for a couple of years now, but you have been at it much longer than we have. What made you look at the market and say, man, I can't sit on the sidelines. I've got to get involved with this, and I've got to do it now?
Definitely was a aha moment in 2013 for me. Sold the electronic FX option exchange that I built over past previous 5 years. And for the first time, I didn't have to work 20 hours a day. So I had a moment to look at Bitcoin, and it was earth-shattering for me. The moment I realized how powerful blockchain is for settlements and for eliminating 80% of the people that are currently staffing traditional markets, exchanges, and banks and brokerages and everything that currently runs the financial and capital markets, I was basically hooked. So Bitcoin was trading $173 back in 2013, and there were $50 million in volume back then. But this technology was earth-shattering, and I put my entire effort and cognition into building anything that would benefit from it, from exchanges to clearinghouse to even the central bank digital currency. But we're at a really finally the mass adoption point, I would say, in 2025. And this is why we're here to talk about tokenization, because I think that's the killer application that will get pretty much everybody involved in the technology.
You know, for the Bitcoin maxis out there, I always have to ask guests like you that have lots of experience, have been around the industry since its very beginning. What do you think? You think Paul LaRue, do you think he's the one that actually designed Bitcoin? I know he's sitting in jail now, but I have a lot of reasons to believe it's him.
No. I have a different theory, which you wouldn't have heard anywhere else in the world.
All right, let's get a close up on this for
let's
the
hear this
audience.
one.
Here's a
I'm
brand new
dying.
one for us.
So in 2000, if you remember, the music industry was ravaged by Napster. And Hollywood was trying to kill it left, right, and center, and just the damn thing would not die. And it was not possible to kill it. The Pentagon was looking at this and they're like, damn, that thing is standing up despite all the efforts by Hollywood. We need technology like that. So they hired 26 top level cryptographic developers in DC to work on a distributed operating system. And those guys took 3 years, 2003 to 2006, to develop a distributed operating system, very much similar to the way Napster operated with distributed computers. And they delivered the system in 2006 to the Pentagon. Pentagon looked at it and never did anything with it. Now, what's really impressive in the Bitcoin code is it's very similar to that operating system. In 1999, there was already, as part of the dot-com boom, digital gold offerings already. So really, the only thing that was added to the Bitcoin code was the mining element. Everything else pretty much is that Pentagon decentralized operating system, digital gold from 1999. And when you add the mining aspect to it, you got Bitcoin. So my personal theory is it's a bunch of NSA developers that obviously have golden handcuffs. And this is their retirement money, which they will use in their later years. But they have zero upside in coming out and being visible and somebody knowing about them.
So wait,
Interesting. So you think the NSA is Satoshi Nakamoto? George, go ahead. You were going to make a comment.
I want to add to it. So I believe it's a combined effort with some of the intel agencies. And the reason I say that is because if you look at the CIA, right, they've been long time peddling drugs to fund their black ops. So what better?
They own that market. They absolutely own that market.
So what better way to change or do something more than implement, like start Bitcoin? So I think it's just a theory, but I would say definitely the 3-letter agencies are involved.
All right, I got to ask one more question. This can go to both of you guys.
Employees of them.
Here's my question, though. The early Bitcoin code had a piece of it that was really well dedicated to online gambling. Are you saying that you feel like the NSA, maybe the CIA and other organizations were using online gambling to maybe launder drug proceeds? Or what was the reasoning that code included that online gambling? Because everybody that knows Paul LaRue, he's sitting in federal prison right now. He got on top of the system very early. He needed a way to transfer money. We know that there's a way to do it through Muslim banks that's been out there for a long time. You can transfer money across borders, but he needed a border solution. And of course, the big plan for him was to run his very vast, at that time, criminal organizations using Bitcoin as kind of the conduit to get paid through. But where does the gambling coding come in for you guys?
That makes sense as well. I can go off on another tangent, but I've seen the traces of it, where actually CIA was ordering Bitcoin purchases through intermediaries in Europe.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important. I guess we'll move on here. There's a lot to cover in tokenization, but I always like to ask people like you that have been around the industry, what are your thoughts? I think it's always interesting insight. And maybe the story is all of the above. Who knows how that was all combined? We've seen the CIA turn on operatives before. Wouldn't surprise me if Paul LaRue was more deeply entrenched in the CIA, DIA, or NSA. And then when he wasn't useful anymore, he became a partial fall guy. So who knows? All right. So
Same with Escobar,
tokenization,
by the
for
way.
me, it's a tsunami, right?
Escobar was also a CIA agent.
Yeah, no doubt. Escobar definitely was.
Speaking of Escobar, we had his son on our
Yeah.
show, the Big Mig show,
Yeah,
maybe
Escobar
like
Jr.
6 months ago, because he lives right here in Jersey too, which I didn't know, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
It's great. So, but let's talk about this. So we know that, of course, tokenization of real world assets, which we're going to refer to as RWAs in this show, is $1 trillion phenomenon. It outlines how destabilizing geopolitical and financial shifts, including all these new tariffs, work from home dynamics that have impacted every company you can possibly think of. We're talking about, these multinationals and how they've been impacted by what happened post the pandemic. We're outdated banking practices, which I question anyway because of their transparency, surging interest in stable coins. They're pushing all the capital away from traditional systems and into crypto, which is clear. Tokenization promises faster, cheaper, and more transparent fundraising and payments. The Trump administration's, everybody, unless you've been living under a rock, knows that pro-crypto positions by this administration are accelerating this transformation. They're trying to position the U.S. as a potential leader, if not the leader, in fast decentralizing global financial futures, and of course, cryptocurrency, and of course the digital asset world. So I think we have to go into the bullet points to start with. I want to talk about how this translates. And just if you can explain to the audience what this will mean for them as we go through some of these points. Let's talk about the benefits of tokenization and how that transcends our current marketplace and what the opportunity and what it's going to mean for the actual, low person on the totem pole in our financial world, the investor or, the personal person that owns these assets.
For start, tokenization fundraising is literally 30 to 40% cheaper than bank loans, than traditional capital markets fundraising, simply because you don't have these very big organizations with hundreds of thousands of employees involved in the process. And the technology is now advanced enough that you can do this as a small business, issue tokens out there, and get funded, whether it's as equity or as bond/loan type tokens. The tokens themselves are basically same thing to Bitcoin or Ethereum or any other token out there. It's a digital representation of a smart contract on the blockchain. And you can code anything into that contract. You can make it a loan, you could make it a potentially a hybrid of the two, like convertible bond. But in fact, what this really spells out is the ability, finally, availability of credit and funding for small businesses to be able to go out there and get funded and realize their dreams. Because for the past 18 years, since the global recession of 07, 08, we really have not had any financing options available to small businesses. It was really a brutal 18-year run in which the US lost more than half of their small businesses as a percentage of GDP. The other amazing benefits is from the investor standpoint, you get to realize the profit yourself. You don't have to put your money in the bank at 0.4%. You're getting maybe 10% yield or even more, depending on the amount of risk you're comfortable taking. And it's a very easy way for you to diversify into a portfolio of hundreds of different projects at the click of a button. Instead of having a massive operation like a bank does with credit officers, with this and that, any investor can really go on a website, select 100 projects in 10 seconds, and fund them with their crypto wallet. And that's the other part. Crypto wallets are making it really accessible, and a lot of small businesses, especially in the global south, are already running on them. So this is expanding the breadth of stable token penetration, really, in both the US and in emerging markets. And then finally, the tokenization, I think, will be the competitive playground where countries will compete to attract capital, because obviously capital is not infinite. You have certain limited resources around the world, and we have the US, China, Europe, Japan, Australia, pretty much in the same position with bankrupt banking systems and government overextended with serious deficits and serious um, borrowings. So if you were to save the economy, whoever attracts the capital will be the winner in that race. And I think this is where I think the Trump administration is really trying to get a leg up on the competition by first limiting access to the US with tariffs, and second, deregulating and really becoming crypto friendly to be able to attract. Because tokenization really moves, and tokens move around the world in 10 seconds. Whereas if you want to move capital through the banking system, it takes months, years for this dream to get realized, if you wish. Whereas with tokens, things move in 10 seconds.
You know, and that
10
efficiency.
seconds ago, the money was in China. Now it's in US.
So you're saying?
And I think what's interesting about the efficiency in these markets. I'm sorry, George. Go ahead. I didn't mean to step on anybody.
Because you were saying the way it moves in 10 seconds. I just bring up, like, when you look at let's say PayPal, Venmo, and you want to move money, unless you pay an enormous fee, it takes 3 to 5 days. But if you want it right away, you got to pay this enormous fee versus right away and less fees. So it's a great advantage. Plus security, too.
I think what's really interesting is that when you think efficiencies and consolidation, every other business has seen this happen. We've seen a lot of the middleman, the broker, the intermediary get cut out. Even websites like Temu, AliExpress, Alibaba, the prices are cheaper because they're not going through a vendor here in the United States. You're allegedly buying directly from the manufacturers on those websites. Even Amazon, many people have taken their products rather than going through intermediaries or sub countries to sell it or putting it on the shelves of retail stores. They chose Amazon to go direct. It's given them higher margins. It's allowed the consumer to get a lower price. But the finance market has always bucked that. It's always fought cutting out the intermediaries and the brokers and the extra fees. They don't like transparency. Morgan Stanley, their reputation is not that of being a transparent company. Their reputation is getting their bite out of everything that goes through their place, taking as much as they possibly can. That's why they're a market maker in many ways. And you look at it, who gets screwed is the small investor or the retail person at the end of the game. What I see with tokenization, I think one of the major benefits is we're going to see transparency. So we're going to know exactly what things cost up front, which I think has never happened, whether it was taking a company public or looking into the private equity markets. And then secondarily, there's going to be a higher return to the investors across the board. So for the people in the audience who are listening, you want tokenization. You want to get away from this system. You want decentralization. This is something that would benefit you. And what I mean, what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to invest. There are multiple websites.
And protect your savings.
And there's multiple websites. And we're going to talk about it on shows in the future. Maybe we'll even do it with Evgeny. The point is, it's pretty interesting that you can invest in you can stake these companies and invest in these companies, a lot of the blockchain companies directly, and they will pay you not 2, 3, 4% like some lousy CD or money market account. We're talking about 10, 15, 20, even 30% returns, which is unbelievable really in the capital markets. And that's not something that I think the major players want. You tell me what your thoughts are on that, Evgeny.
Oh, absolutely. And if you look at, first of all, the business financing has disappeared from the banks. And we will talk about that in more detail next. But the simple fact of the capital being available to a startup and not just the very big monopolies out there is transformative. The ability of the investor to be able to select different investments and literally invest in 100 different projects instantly is really crucial here. Because you want diversification. You don't want to put all your savings in one project and don't know what happens. But on average, if you play the law of large numbers, only 5% of businesses fail. And 5% of projects go bankrupt. That's what banks assume. And with that kind of numbers, if you invest in 100 projects and you assume 5 of them are going to be bankrupt and the other 95 pay you 10, 20%, Well, you average out 12% a year. That's not a bad gig,
It's a
and you
great
don't have to,
gig.
right?
Yeah, it's a great gig. At
uh,
the end of the day, when it comes to small business investing, you can walk in there with a great credit score, with great financials, great tax returns. And what they want to ask is, what asset are you borrowing against? They don't want to go out on a limb unless you're
yeah,
some big name brand company. You walk in there with the best of the
yeah,
best, and immediately want to ask you, well, how are you going to secure the money? Well, why should I?
yeah,
Why should I not be able to use my financials and my 780 or 790 credit score to secure that? Why can't I do that? Oh, because that's not what we do for the small banking world. And at the end of the day, that's the
no,
problem. The capital markets are closed. It's the insiders that benefit from the capital markets. And let's face it, bank failures, let's talk about how you go to send a wire, whether, domestically or internationally, there's delays, there's blocked wire transfers, and that usually happens to capital shortages. They'll blame it on you. Over compliance, there's politicization by these banks. We saw them weaponize against all the crypto companies. They had an organized plot
indeed.
running behind the scenes about debanking them. Even Solom Global got debanked, as did many
Well,
others, because
the
you couldn't use your
president, the
credit card to
president
buy
got
crypto. You couldn't use your debit card to buy crypto. This discrimination just gets passed through. And then there's the fees, account access, and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and even the president got debanked. The first lady got debanked, right?
Yeah.
All of the Trump organizations got debanked, and that's why I think we have now administration that's extremely crypto friendly, because they realized, the banks are just picking sides. This is not a fair system, and that's one aspect. But the real
Also,
problem
Trump
with
Trump
the
learned he
banks,
can make a lot of money with it too, though.
Yeah,
ah,
exactly.
but 3 days before inauguration,
Yeah.
He made a lot of money on that Trump coin. I wish I'd known about it. The funny thing is, even the people that invented the crypto ball didn't know about it. They all
yeah,
got blindsided. They were kind of upset that they hadn't been somehow tipped off. That coin went through the roof. I don't know where it's at now. I'm sure it didn't operate as a rug pull, but it definitely went up, and now it's back down. I don't know how it's holding at this point. The Melania
it
coin didn't
broke.
do so well, but I think they probably did very well themselves.
It actually broke the political system as well. For the first time in political history, you can actually Trump showed to the world that by tokenizing your political capital, you can finance your political aspirations with the masses better than you would with the vipers and the
Yeah.
all the
Well, let's
different
face it. If you're
leeches
waiting
in
around for the
Washington.
Democratic Party act blue or the Republican Party to give you a fair shake on the money they raise, when they go out and use their mailing list to raise money for a candidate, it's a 95-5 split, a 90-10 split. That means they use your name, they use your branding, they go out and raise it, and you get 5 or 10% after all fees, which isn't
Yeah,
very good. To be able to go out and raise money, if you said I'm going to use a coin to raise money for my campaign, potentially there's lots of great candidates that get outspent. It's one of the strategies. It's become prohibitively expensive to run. I mean, look at the Wisconsin election for the Supreme Court position, for a Wisconsin Supreme Court position. That position only pays $186,000 a year. They spent
yeah,
both sides spent, they say, in a combination
hundreds of
over
millions.
$90 million to
Yeah.
run for that position because they knew it was going to be used for redistricting. But you think about the possibilities of not raising money through normal channels and maybe tokenizing it. But let's talk about, George, you and I talked about this the other day about Basel III, and how these regulations, and the way that Basel III incentivizes banks. They always prioritize safe assets, government bonds over small business lending. I think this is brutal what happens, George.
I mean, listen, anything with more regulations and is no good, especially from the banking sector. But we were just talking. Evangeline was just talking about the banking and like the fees, the transfers, and just for example, like we get a $2,000 wire transfer and we pay $15 fee for somebody sending us the wire transfer. And now it's my understanding. I think it's like, and the side sending it pays $15. So you're talking about 30,
Or maybe 30.
So you're talking.
Actually, they're usually more for the sender. So yeah, it's probably 45, $50 for the
But
round
when
trip.
did the receiver start paying? That's what I'm trying to figure out. This is the first time I've ever seen a receiver pay for a wire.
Well, that's what the banks have started doing to small businesses. Literally, small businesses pay
Yeah.
10 times more than the big corporations for
So
banking
if
services.
you look at those fees, and now let's take a look at what they're hitting us every time you use a credit card for any transaction now. The
3%.
fees. Yeah. So every time you go
Three.
somewhere,
Yeah.
the retailer is charging you that percentage. We used as a consumer never had to pay that. So
Yeah. Well,
I mean, okay, you can explain it the way these fees can be just like thrown away, maybe pay a little bit,
well,
but
part
not
of
like that.
it all started with Basel III, indeed, because banks were Basel III was the regulation after the Great Recession, and it forced banks to basically put all risks on the books and to appropriately manage risk and price risk. Now, we have to also mention that 425,000 bankers were fired in 2008 in New York alone. So if you're one of the lucky ones still having a job, first imagine how much you're going to think before you give a loan to a small business, which may put you out of a job and have you join the 425,000 that are already out of a job. So that was
Yeah.
the first salvo, if you wish. And then Basel III came in, and with all the risk parameters and all the capital requirements for the banks, and with the banks being massively understaffed, they basically realized that I'm better off servicing $100 billion loan, because the amount of work for $100 billion loan and $100,000 loan is the same for the bank. Now, and the obviously you make a lot more money from the $100 billion loan, and as a result, banks just focused on anything above a billion, and anybody that wanted anything less than a billion, they're just not worth their time. So that's really what killed small business lending and pushed it into basically pawn brokerage, credit card financing, and private credit, which obviously has not been very good for the small business. But banks also didn't do too well either, because a lot of the Fortune 1000 companies literally went out to Europe and opened up their own banks in Luxembourg. So the banks lost their best customers, the Fortune 1000 customers. So because of that, they lost the big customers. They're not lending to small businesses. So the only revenue stream was basically to nickel and dime wire transfers and payments and checking accounts. And then the latest problem for the banks has been really treasuries. Now, they were told that treasuries are as good as cash. So if they keep their cash in treasuries, they're in good shape. Well, US banks have $4 or $5 trillion in treasuries, of which 30% have paper losses. Sorry, the paper losses are 30% on those since 2020. So effectively, there's a couple of potentially $1 to $2 trillion of paper losses in the US banks, which if there's any small run on those banks, they'll instantly fold, which is what happened to Silicon Valley Bank. And for this reason, FDIC has been very tight-lipped about reporting paper losses from treasuries at the banks.
Yeah.
You can't even find that information, even if you try it. This is how transparent the regulator is. So this is why we need really tokenization,
And
so you can see everything on the blockchain.
I have never liked the Federal Reserve. Transparency is not the name of the game. Nothing federal about it or reserve. It's a private institution, privately held, that's sanctioned by United
JP
States
Morgan
statute.
is the largest shareholder.
Yeah. So, and the only thing they really report to is the shareholders. Many times, when asked for transparency, they just flat out said no. I've heard rumors, that Donald Trump wants to nationalize the Federal Reserve. I think it would be a great choice if he did, in fact, do it. I'd love to see it happen. I don't know if it will. It's a big step, but the U.S. has got to refinance. I think over $9 trillion in bonds in 2025. They're going to be competing with all the private capital raises. I think some of these crashes, even the most recent one, might have been triggered intentionally. It's art of the deal. You want to do that to reduce the yields on these treasuries. So, and this, I think this all leads to what the real thing here is all the nations are in a global scramble right now. They want to capture all the investable capital to avoid collapse. I've heard a lot of things about the Chinese economy. from the NFSC, which is the new federal state of China. They're the anti-CCP, and they say that it's all smoke and mirrors, that the Chinese economy is in serious trouble, that the government's been doing everything that they can to prop it up. And even right now, their bluff with the United States should be called. I asked them some questions a couple of hours ago just to find out if I was accurate in what I was predicting. They said absolutely. So I think, tokenization is definitely the fastest way to attract global and especially global South capital. Now, we're going to take a short break, and we come back, we'll dig right into that. We'll get Evgeny to go ahead and tell us his thoughts on it. George Balloutine, myself, Lance Migliaccio. We'll be right back with the Crypto Power Hour, the #1 crypto show on Rumble. If you like the show, thumbs up, comment, share, and like. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. More information coming on tokenization.
As an American who keeps up with the real news, you know by now the severity of the economic issues that are plaguing our great nation. My name is Jonathan Rose, and I'm the CEO of Genesis Gold Group, the only major faith-driven company in the industry. 2024 is a year full of uncertainties, with trillions of dollars in national debt, inflation impacting your savings, and a pivotal election year. Your peace of mind is more valuable than ever. Now is the time to use physical gold and silver to preserve your hard-earned retirement savings with a gold IRA. Call Genesis Gold Group today. Our team has decades of experience helping folks just like you take their first step on the path to true financial freedom with a gold and silver IRA.
Call Genesis Gold Group today at 1-800-200-GOLD for a no-commitment, informative consultation with one of our experts to find out if we can be a fit for you. Call now at 1-800-200-4653 or visit genesisgoldgroup.com.
In a world of uncertainty, be prepared with Silver Prepper Bars, your ultimate hedge against political instability and economic turmoil. Introducing the Silver Prepper Bar, crafted from 0.999 pure silver and proudly made in the USA. This tangible, divisible asset can come in handy even in the toughest of times. Portable, perforated, and easily tradable, the Silver Prepper Bar is your lifeline in times of crisis. When facing inflation, currency devaluation, and financial meltdown, Silver Prepper Bars provide peace of mind. Don't wait for disaster to strike. Secure your future today with the exclusive Silver Prepper Bar, the only silver bar on the market divisible into 3 different size pieces for maximum utility, all while fitting in your wallet. The smart choice for savvy investors and preppers alike. With Silver Prepper Bars, you're ready for whatever tomorrow brings. Hi folks, I'm here today to introduce you to the Prepper Bar from PrepperBar.com, the most unique precious metals product we have seen in a long time. These 62-gram bars are perforated and easily broken down into your choice of 3 different sizes to fit a multitude of needs. Whether it be from asset protection from inflation, economic turmoil, or its unique utility for barter and trade, the Prepper Bar makes a perfect gift for all the precious metal lovers out there. Exclusively made here in the USA and selling out fast. Available in both gold and silver, these slim Prepper Bars fit neatly in your wallet, and their utility enables use in any situation. As gold and silver prices continue to surge and top economists predict upcoming shortages, now is the time to secure your precious metals in the form of Prepper Bars. Go to PrepperBar.com now and place your order before supply runs out and prices go up. All payment methods accepted. Order your Silver Prepper Bars now at PrepperBar.com. Silver Prepper Bars, ready for whatever tomorrow brings. Order now.
All right, welcome back to the Crypto Power Hour, powered by Solon Global, where we break down the world of money markets and everything in between with your host, Lance Migliaccio, George Balloutine, and our guest, Evgeny Mitkov. I got that right. His name is a tough one for me, but, us in New York is how we get it. We're just talking about what? Global capital race. So we're talking about what? Nations are in a global scramble to capture investable capital to avoid collapse. You think there's going to be a collapse? What do you think?
Indeed.
Huh?
Well, capital is limited. And if you look at the banking systems in US, Europe, and China, for sure, they are in serious trouble. And the governments as well. The governments are levered up to the teeth. If you were a family and you had the financials of the US government or Japanese government or Chinese government, you would have been bankrupt decades ago. Okay? This is how bad things are. But people will say, well, they're printing money, so they have control of that. Well, if they're printing money, they're creating inflation. So effectively, they're taxing the population and their working hours by printing more debt. Well, obviously, that cannot go ad infinitum because we're in the stage where government debt is going exponential, and the debt servicing of that is becoming extremely expensive. Federal government is looking at $1.8 trillion in interest this year. That's the same as the deficit that we're facing. And when you add it up to the 36 trillion, we're looking at 40 trillion. So there's certainly a massive competition. We're going to come up with minimum 4 trillion more financing plus 9.2 refinancing. That's 13 trillion that the federal government needs to fundraise. So clearly there's a competition for funding out there. And things are very similar in China too. After the real estate collapse over there, the banks are in incredibly bad shape, sitting on portfolios of empty multi-million people cities, right? And Europe basically created economic harakiri. They killed their industrial base. They don't have energy to support that industrial base now. And clearly will have significant challenges financing any future government or industrial debt. So that's where the race is. Who's going to attract the capital, especially the free floating one, in order to finance their economies and potentially avoid the abyss by having an economy? Because somebody will bite the bullet in this 2025. Currently, Europe is seems to be racing for the bottom, but anybody else can bite that bullet if they mix up the spaghetti, if you wish.
Hey,
Well, there's no doubt. I think you're absolutely accurate. And I think, I think Donald Trump knows a lot of that. I think a lot of it strategically, he's trying to figure out immediate solutions. Because if you want to talk about the deep state or any other way you want to describe the organization that's been trying to destroy the U.S., there's been kind of a global fomented plot to do that. Not necessarily is it coming from the countries, but I think it's coming from the global elites. But at the end of the day, BRICS was part of that solution. They had a plan to destabilize the U.S. dollar even further, hoping they could cause, economic turmoil here. But, these stable tokens, this is a big deal because they're just getting more and more popular. We know Solom Global is deeply involved in that. There's over 200 billion in stable coins, mainly USDT, which is USD Tether, and of course USDC circulating globally. These cross-border payments and the cross-border contracts and the lending are 30 to 40% more efficient with stable coins. And that's a big number when you start talking about efficiencies of 30 to 40% better. And all the stable coins, whether they were backed by Trump or other organizations, it appears this is going to become the mainstream, is it not?
It already is. For African small businesses, that is the mainstream because you cannot get access to a dollar bank account. If you want to send dollars overseas, it'll cost you $17 in wire transfer. So in a lot of the global south, people already use crypto dollars as the payment mechanism.
Yeah.
It's funny enough, it's not very clear to Americans that that's the case because we have a functioning banking system here to some extent, and it's not as expensive as down in Africa. But for small businesses,
and I want to just comment for a minute on that. My wife is from South Africa. She sends money to her mother and her family members. Sometimes there's urgency. Let alone that if we have to go through the bank, the wire gets delayed. It takes days. If you decide to use, Western Union or, one of the other transmit services, the fees are through the roof. They eat up so much of the money. It's not even funny. At the end of the day, this is going to be much cheaper, and I think it's so much more user-friendly. And I think that is what I'd like you to make that a specific of what you're going to describe to the audience, because there are lots of people that have family members in different countries, and they send birthday gifts or Christmas gifts. Usually it's U.S. cash because people like to save, receive U.S. currency because usually it benefits them. In South Africa, you're 18, 19, 20 to 1. So, of course, they would rather have U.S. currency as a gift.
Yep. Yeah, because the local currency is being printed ad infinitum and it's got hyperinflation. and depreciates against the dollar pretty intensively in most of the global South countries. And of course, yeah, the dollar, even though it has its own depreciation as visible from the price against Bitcoin, it's at least less than the local. It's the lesser of two evils to the local currency in a lot of these global South countries. And of course, it's still the currency in which everything is priced, and so it's pretty easy for a business that wants to buy something cross-border to obviously pay in dollars. And the rails are out there to convert it into bank deposits and so forth. So the infrastructure is already there. What's really mind blowing is with $200 billion in stable tokens, you can actually now operate on a global basis most of the international business. What do I mean by that? In the FX markets, there's $7 trillion in transactions every day. And people will say, look how much bigger it is than the stable token market. But that's not true, because in the FX market, you have on average 3 calendar days of settlement time. So if I do a transaction today on a Thursday, it will actually settle on Monday. So that's actually 4 calendar days that this transaction will take place. And so the capital is basically locked up in the bank space for 4 days, and you don't see any of it during that time frame. With stable tokens, if I do a transaction now, it'll be done in 10 seconds. So as a market maker, I can turn over my capital literally 11,400 times in the space of a single FX transaction. That is incredibly efficient. And as a result, it makes me as a market maker I require a lot less capital in order to do exactly the same trading than I do in FX.
You know, it's interesting, and that's an immediate result and benefit to the online consumer. What do you think for a timeline? When do you think we've heard a lot of stories about XRP potentially integrating fully and taking over the SWIFT system? There's lots of rumors. I'm not saying they're the only participant, but what do you think the timeline is? Because don't you feel like a lot of these big institutions, the big banks and the big brokerage firms are going to try to slow this down as much as possible? Because it seems like the gravy train for them is over.
Yeah. The game is this train has left the station already. What's interesting is since 2014, JP Morgan has had a team of hitmen, I would call them, that would go around telling banks not to touch crypto until they were able to actually really start developing their own crypto solution. And by 2019, they already had developed with the code from the Ethereum Foundation. Interesting enough, that year when JP Morgan went to the Regional Banking Association in the US and told all the regional banks, guys, crypto is dead. Look at the crypto winter. You guys need to scrap all your blockchain projects and throw them in the bin. And all the regional banks did that. And that's when JP Morgan launched the JP Morgan coin.
Yeah. Amazing how that works. Don't do it. You shouldn't do it. It's bad. But we've got a solution.
Exactly. And now you need to use my solution. So basically, these regional banks are really royally screwed because they don't have any tools to compete in this race of stable tokens. They threw them away in 2019. JP Morgan has a solution, but that solution is a private chain. It's the same as if you and I have Chase accounts. Yeah, of course, we can make instant payments between us. But who wants to bank with a monopoly? And be at the mercy of that
that's what they
monopoly,
want, though. They want the monopoly. But these exchange-traded funds, the ETFs are coming out, at a high rate. We saw the first one for XRP the other day. We know they're out there for Bitcoin and Ethereum. There's some amazing AI-traded funds. There's a company called Animus Technologies that works with a company called BlockTrustIRA.com. They've been getting these ridiculous 120% plus returns a year, trading on Bitcoin volatility, Ethereum volatility, and soon XRP volatility. They trade up to 60 coins over there. But we're seeing a lot of AI integration. But the big integration that I think I want to circle back to with you is It's right now for the general public. We hear it a lot in our chat. We hear it in our direct messages. Wallets are so damn complicated. George and I probably have 6 or 7 we had to register for, and to trade in a certain coin, a meme coin, you got to buy Solana, you got to buy Ethereum, you got to trade it, you got to take your U.S. dollars, you got to confirm your identity in your account. You're juggling all these wallets. God forbid you lose any of the seed phrases. When do you think the user-friendly version of a digital wallet's going to come out where it allows you access to everything? You're not going to have to trade coins. You can go right from USDC into any coin, even something as risky as a meme coin. When do you think that security and flexibility arrives? What kind of a timeline?
I think we're almost there. With all of these technologies, obviously, you need to build quite a bit of technology for it to be user-friendly and to be accessible and interconnected. We're now into the 16th year of building bridges, connectivity, DeFi exchanges, DeFi pools, and DeFi wallets. And I think the future is really in the DeFi space, as I've seen the growth of it from 10 billion in 2021 to 20 right now 100 billion and more. What's amazing about wallets, though, they haven't really grown much. You still have to do the 12-word phrase, and it's such a stupidity because, if your house burned down in LA, guess what? Your 12-word phrase burned down with it, and
You're
all
shit
your
out of
savings.
luck.
You're really out of luck.
Or if you throw your hard drive into a landfill.
No, and then you start
Or if you
digging
get
through the
raided
garbage.
by the DOJ for something, and they take your hard drives or your computer. I heard a story about that from somebody, and their computers and stuff got taken. They'd been doing some early Bitcoin mining, and now gone.
Money is guilty until proven innocent, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to go to court.
Till money is guilty till proven. I love that. I'm going to use that. I'm taking that from you. Just like a meme. I'm taking it.
Yep, it is. And the federal government uses that against you all the time. They'll take your money, and then you need to go to court to prove that the money is innocent.
That is part of lawfare. They weaponize the system, and part of the system is they have to freeze all your assets and make it so that it isn't a fair fight. It's never a fair fight with the Department of Justice. When you really understand the law, you realize that what they've done is they've created something that really doesn't, that it violates your rights right from the get-go, that you don't really have due process, you don't have equal application or equal protection of the law. And then you've got, in a lot of cases, not all, there's some good judges out there. I've said it many times, there's some good judges even here in Colorado and other states, but there's lots of activists, lots of not good judges that operate from the bench, practicing law, violating your rights, and they don't care because they've got absolute immunity and they've got lifetime appointments and they just don't give a shit.
Correct. And they were put there for the specific reason. So, really, wallet technology needs to improve significantly so people can start trusting this amazing technology and be able to pass the grandmother test. Or be able to be used in the treasury of a business. In the current situation, a business, you'll have an accountant set up a payment, another accountant will release that payment, a third one will approve it, and then it'll leave the bank account, right? You want that kind of accountability so nobody just wires the money to themselves and skips down, if you wish.
Yeah.
You can do that now with wallets too.
Well, and
we'll talk about
clearly,
that too.
The unification of exchanges where you're holding, your currency at what I would call the hot level, and then cold storage being unified in a more simplistic manner, but yet still making sure that you're secure. And that's the next thing I'd bring to you. Where do you think we go with quantum computing and AI? It's frightening in a way because a 12-word seed phrase, right now we're talking about multiple petaflops. I wouldn't doubt that there's computer systems. Elon Musk is working on a project that everybody knows about, Project Colossus. And that project in itself is extremely sophisticated. It's already well built. Right now, I think he's got 100,000 NVIDIA chips doing the work. But he's talked about having millions of NVIDIA chips doing the work, which means we'd probably be talking about something that far exceeds petaflop that I can't even wrap my head around. We're talking about millions of petaflops in microseconds. How do we look at the future of security for this industry?
Well, I think we're safe for some time. Actually, I was part of a quantum computing seminar at the NVIDIA conference last
Okay,
month.
great.
And just looking at the way quantum computing is operating, they're still very far from being able to crack the security of SHA-256 in Bitcoin or similar blockchains. But there are already new blockchains that have significantly better security. And that's one of the risks for Bitcoin and earlier blockchains, that there will be something much better and much more secure that comes along, and potentially people hop onto that. And for me, that's the biggest risk for Bitcoin as a value, that there might not be enough people out there to jump the bandwagon to update it and fast enough to another technology. And as you see, things can be volatile. So, but certainly, I don't think we're at the stage where somebody can hack into the blockchain security of Bitcoin and be able to start self-issuing Bitcoins.
I heard a story.
We're
I
at
don't
least
know.
5 years away from that.
I want to ask you if you ever heard this story. I heard it from what I think is a pretty reliable source, but I could never vet the story. I don't know if there's any truth. I'd heard a story that the Chinese had created an entire clone of the current Bitcoin network, and they'd actually created a second vertical with their own set of 21 or 22 million Bitcoin, whatever the actual number is. And then it was a direct paralleled clone, and that nobody really knew that it was out there. And of course, that's created a vast pool of capital for them that people aren't aware of. It's exchangeable. Is that even possible?
Oh, it's of course possible. Source code is open. Anybody can do that. In fact, the CDBC of Bahamas, the sand dollar, was a clone of Bitcoin, and everything that we worked with was actually Bitcoin technology. So there's a ton of Bitcoin clones out there. I mean, obviously the Lightning Network is a clone of Bitcoin. So
could
there's a
China
lot of that.
create a second set of Bitcoin on a parallel cloned network? And would anybody be able to detect that?
Oh yeah, and they can, and and we'll be able to see that's a completely different network. That part will be visible, but yeah, you could clone it, and certainly you could run it. And of course, that's where the transparency comes into place. Is that you can see whether the wallets are the same on both networks. You would not be able to. What's not possible is to recreate the current Bitcoin blockchain with all of its transactions, all of its attached wallets, and all of its history. That is near impossible.
What about the Bitcoin that are missing? What about the ones like the ones that are in Satoshi Nakamoto's wallet, or maybe that drive? Would they be able to at least make it appear as that the Bitcoin they had in this parallel network were legitimate, or is that an impossibility?
No.
Okay.
No, that's an impossibility.
I was curious because I wondered if that's what they were focused on, was taking advantage of maybe the lost Bitcoin, the stolen Bitcoin, people that lost seed phrases, if there was a way to identify those lost tokens and through the parallel network. I don't know what they've done. I've heard
again,
pretty reliable source.
That's the whole point of, and the beauty of blockchain is you see all the transactions. Now, there is a potential risk because the blockchain has gotten so big and nobody looks into the past history because you have to look at teraflops of data. But at the same time, if anything parallel emerges, people will look into the blockchain history and you'll be able to easily determine that that's a fake blockchain.
Well, let me ask you this. If somebody lost control of a hard drive or a wallet, right? They lost everything. Somehow it was destroyed or whatever else. Is there any way to go back and rebuild that history, or is it just about impossible?
Well, you've lost the word phrase. There's nothing that can help you. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that's what I
And this is where these new wallets come very handy because they have this so-called NPC wallets where you can set up the whole family to be the security of the wallet. This way, if you drop your phone into the toilet or into the ocean, no big deal. You just ask your cousin or your brother, or your father to authorize you back into the family wallet if you wish. Or the same thing for a company. You have 10 users that are part of the same security, and not all 10 of them are going to drop the wallet in the toilet at the same time, right?
Yeah, let's hope not. Let
That would
me
be
ask you
serious
this.
talent.
What do you think about, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about policy shifts. You know, Trump's made it very clear that he's pro crypto. We got rid of Gary Gensler, that little weasel. He's gone. He was doing a lot of damage through the SEC. We don't like what he did. He cost lots of XRP holders billions of dollars, in my opinion. He's been dismantling these past anti-crypto policies like Choke Point 2.0, which for the audience, that was the banking system that ran behind the scenes, or the operation that ran behind the scenes of banking that made it almost impossible, even for end users like yourselves, to buy crypto with your debit card from your bank account. And in fact, if you did it, you were likely to have your account closed down for just attempting to do it. They stopped lots of institutions from being able to bank, much like the marijuana industry. But, you know, tokenization offers certainty as compared to uncertainty. What do you think of the administration? Are they making all the right moves, or are there things you think they should have been doing already?
I think they should be already thinking about legislature that creates a regulatory certainty for stable tokens, for tokenization. The biggest problem in America on the tokenization front is the treatment of tokens as security. And the 1940s Securities Act obviously is what is referenced. Look at that. We're talking about almost a century-old act, 85-year-old act, which has no applicability in the current day. But the worst part of the securities laws of America is that their goal is to prevent regular people from being able to participate in highly profitable investment activities. You need to be an accredited investor to participate, i.e., an investor with a couple of $1 million, in order to participate in startup investing, in private investing, in private bond offerings, and things like that. So pretty much everything that you want to tokenize, whether it's equity, security, bond, loans, you can only offer it to accredited investors, to multimillionaires in the States, whereas in the rest of the world, you can offer it to any investor. And that's the sad part. That's the part that the administration should be working on right now, to allow every American to be able to participate in the tokenization and decriminalize people that offer tokenization as a way of funding. There should be rules. But let me give you a very interesting statistic. Kaufman Foundation out of Kansas City has been looking at the whole startup universe back 50 years. And looking at the data for a angel investor investing in a seed round in a company to hit a unicorn, they'll need to invest in 159 companies over 12.9 years. So literally, if you're an investor dishing out $10 and $25,000 checks to startups as part of your angel investing, you have to spend 13 years of your life in order to invest in something that will turn out to be $1 billion company.
Wow.
All right. And that's what the statistics show over a 50-year period in the US. And when you look at those 159 companies, 80% of them will never generate a penny in revenue, which, whether a company doesn't generate a penny in revenue or it's a scam, really makes no difference. The result is the same. Now, there's some chance that you'll be able to sell the technology to somebody, even though you generated no revenue. But if as an investor, rather than spending 13 years of your lifetime to try to achieve this result, what if you spend 13 seconds and invest in 159 tokens? And if 80% of them turn out to be scams, you would have been in the same position as spending 13 years of your life.
There's no doubt. There's been some generational wealth created. There's no doubt about it. All right, we are out of time. As much as I know we could talk about tokenization forever, I hope you and the audience enjoyed the show. If you like the show, of course, thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe. If you can do the paid subscription, $5 a month, pretty cheap way to learn about crypto. We'll be bringing lots of experts like Evgeny on the show. You don't want to miss out on it. He's clearly, you can see the knowledge base. We'll be getting access to that. That's the Crypto Power Hour every Friday and Wednesday at 3 p.m. Of course, we've also got the Global Finance Forum on Fridays at 1 p.m. If you missed that episode, you should check it out. #1 show in finance, the Global Finance Forum. #1 show in crypto on Rumble, the Crypto Power Hour. Don't forget to follow Solum Global, the Crypto Power Hour on X, and of course, Lance Miliaccio, georgeballoutine, and the Big Mig Show. We're out of here. George, last words, my brother, on the way out of the door.
Evgeny, it was a pleasure having you on. We definitely have to get you on some more episodes. We will get that done. We look forward to it. Everybody, have a blessed weekend. God bless. Most importantly, stay frosty. Peace out.